Do you believe the Fourth Amendment applies to third-party records?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by third-party records, sir. What do you mean?
The telephone company records.
You're asking me a legal question.
It's a pretty big question.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm sorry, Senator. I'm not sure I know how to answer that.
Do you believe the government has the right to have bulk collection of records from millions of individuals without a warrant?
I see. That is, I respectfully say that is beyond my competence as the Secretary of Homeland Security to answer in any intelligent legal way. I wouldn't want to hazard a legal judgment on that.
Here's the problem, though. I mean, your agency's in charge of cooperating and being part of this. And that's the whole debate we have in our country is over whether you should do this. And your testimony, you complain about encryption. Why do you think that companies are choosing to go in the direction of more encryption? It's because they feel you're taking our information without a warrant. So I would hazard that, and I would propose that there is no person named Verizon. So you do not have an individualized warrant under the Fourth Amendment when you say to Mr. Verizon, we want hundreds of millions of records. And this is a debate, and it's an important one. And if we're going to complain about encryption and we're going to complain about individuals wanting privacy, we really need to have a thorough discussion and understanding of the Fourth Amendment and the complaints by many of us that you're doing something without a warrant. The other thing I would say is with encryption, if you get a warrant, I'm one of the biggest civil libertarians there is, but if you have a warrant, I'm fine with you getting and unencrypting data from people. I'm also fine with you going 20 hops into the data. I don't care how deep you go into it, just call a judge. What we need to do is have a system where judges are on call 24 hours a day, but still there's a judge. The reason we separated the judiciary from the police is a very important one. The civil rights era, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people were spied upon in our country. War protesters were spied upon in our country. The reason we separate the judiciary from the police is to try to prevent the possibility of bias. And people says, oh, well, the government's good, but look at the times when the government wasn't so good. You know, the FBI director recently pointed back and talked about the times when Martin Luther King was spied upon. That's why we want these procedural protections. And so I think as you look forward and as you talk about this, just realize that when you have your doubts about encryption, think back to the times in our history when we didn't do so good a job. And those of us who want to try to protect privacy are trying to make sure that no sort of institutional bias could enter into our legal system again. And I think it's a very, very big question. And there are some of us who say, by all means, get all the information you need on terrorists, but get a warrant with someone's name on it. If it doesn't work well, put more judges there and have them on the phone 24 hours a day. We do it for the police. The police don't go into a home unless there's a commotion going on or imminent danger. The police stand on the curb at 3 in the morning and they call a judge. We should do the same for American citizens, and we really shouldn't be collecting their data in bulk. That's why we're mad, and that's why people are attempting to encrypt information, is to prevent the government from doing illegal searches of our records. Our framers, the constitutional founders, they were very worried about privacy, and they were also worried about whether or not soldiers could write warrants with nobody's name on it, what they called a general warrant, where they could just round up anybody or go into anybody's house. So I think it's very important that we, and the Fourth Amendment says this, that we should individualize warrants. So you shouldn't be able to collect every American's records, but if you know of one American and you have some probable cause or suspicion, by all means look at that record. But really my opposition is more based on liberty, that you shouldn't give up liberty, even if you said it worked to give up your liberty, because really then what would we fight? We're fighting against terrorists to protect our liberty, to protect our Bill of Rights. If we give up our Bill of Rights in the process, then what really were we fighting for?
The judge, that would be Judge Andrew Napolitano, is biting his tongue here. He wants to get into this. You and I profoundly disagree about the threat in the nuclear age. don't we?
Well, I don't know that we disagree about the threat. We disagree about the remedy. I agree with everything that Senator Paul has just said. No matter how serious the threat, you don't give up your liberty, because liberty once given up doesn't come back. And he's given a lot of historical examples. But what is profound for an argument that you and I have is that we now know for the first time that the Justice Department itself acknowledges the Patriot Act hasn't worked. It hasn't stopped a single plot, and it hasn't aided in the prosecution of a single defendant for a terrorist-related crime.
Failure in the past is no reason to negate the whole structure in the future.
It absolutely
Senator.
is.
Yeah, but what I would say, here's the point. People set this argument up as all or none, that if we don't have bulk collection, we won't have any collection. I am for collection of data on people who would attack us, so I'm not against that. If I'm the judge and you call me and you say, John Doe, we have evidence, and this is how it works.
But we don't know until after the event, do we?
We have no evidence of anyone that's ever been stopped where we didn't already have some suspicion. So use the suspicion. And the other thing is that as we build the haystack bigger and bigger, if we have every American's phone record in there, I think we get lost in the haystack and we can't find the needle. The Synarev boy, the Boston bomber, we had some evidence. The Russians tipped us off. My guess is that most judges in America, myself included, would have said, you know what, let's follow that boy's travel records because of this suspicion, and let's make sure he doesn't go back to Chechnya, which he did, but we didn't know that. So here we had suspicion. We had enough for a judge to get a warrant. We didn't do what we should have done because we were too busy spending billions of dollars collecting the information from innocent Americans.